the night before this test match, the ground staff and other members of the staff were out on the pitch having a drink, as is their ritual, and the head groundsman Cameron had done a bit of work repairing a few cracks, and photographs were taken, and people wondered if there was foul play. There wasn't at all. It was a storm in a teacup, but there was foul play in 1975 in England. Australia winning the first test, only a 4-test series. It was straight after the first World Cup, incidentally. Australia won the first test convincingly by an innings. The second test at Lord's was a draw. It was the test that one A.W. Gregg was appointed captain of England in place of Mike Dennis. There was a streaker in that test match. I think the first one ever at Lord's.
You've never forgotten the streakers, have you?
Well, I think it was... we moved swiftly on. We moved swiftly on. There was a great bit of commentary by John Arlott, actually, who let the streaker do his business before coming out and saying, "It's male." And on came the police, and he said they'd seen its last cricket of the day. Anyway, what we wanted to talk about was the Headingley Test match, where protesters had a sit-in on the pitch. They used oil and I think knives to damage the pitch. Firstly, let's have a look at this photograph, which shows you didn't bother too much with team uniforms in those days, guys.
Well, I did. Don't speak for yourself. I mean, have a look at chaps.
That's not a uniform, it's a tweed jacket.
So are you wearing thongs there?
I was a bit late getting there because I stopped off on the way to buy a new pair of shoes. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to put them on.
So Australia won up in the series. Let's have a look at the match. We'll come back to that picture in a second, but let's have a look at the summary of the match, because it was beautifully poised. England 288, then bowled out Australia for 135, then 291, then Australia 3 for 220, so needing 225 to win the game with 7 wickets in hand. Now, there was an English criminal, George Davis, who had been put away for a robbery. George Davis had many friends in high places. Those friends got onto that Headingley pitch and did that damage with oil and knives. Davis then got released, I think, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he did actually eventually, and then he got caught robbing something or another, and eventually got put back in. But it was the friends of George Davis, prior to his first release, that got under the covers, and I thought chaps in East Mob were a bit weak, actually. When you look at that pitch, there's not much wrong with it, really. The playing centre was OK. We should have carried on.
Actually, the name of the guy who dug up the pitch and poured the oil on was Peter Chappell, spelled exactly the same as us.
Second cousin.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't one of the convicts. He didn't get sent out. And anyhow, he rang, and Greg said he had a very distinctive voice. You do it like that. Anyhow, he rang Greg up the night before the Oval Test and said, "Greg, can I get some tickets to the Oval?" And Greg said, "Yes, Peter, you can, as long as you promise not to dig up the pitch there as well." So, but they did actually. They had security guards at the Oval Test match, and they caught a couple of guys trying to climb under and do a copycat job on the Oval as well.
So, who would have won this match? 225 for the Aussies, 7 wickets for the English.
We were strolling to victory. Strolling to victory.
I mean, it would have been the first time in the history of the game that a side scored that many runs. I mean, who did they have to come?
Walters was going to get 100.
Well, Walters averaged 25 in England.
Walters was going to get 100, mate. I could see it coming. Well, we'd lulled them into a false sense of security, you see.
For me, it was robbery. I mean, that bloke George Davis I'll never forget, because I think he robbed us of a test match. But be that as it may, there was a bit of rain the next day, but we think we would have had enough time anyhow. We've had an hour.
What, one over?
No, there was an hour. The rain started at 12. We had an hour at least before rain, and then it stopped. We would have been on after tea, so, you know.